we'll be able to get going. And we have one more panelist who will be joining us, but he is going to be joining at 5:40 from his classroom and is going to just pan in and talk a little bit about his manufacturing options for our students. So thrilled to have you guys on, and welcome PUC students and families. Thank you for joining. And I know we are traditionally for our webinars have kids pouring in at the 5 o'clock mark around there. So I'm just going to get going with the formalities of the intro. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Nicole Murphy, and I am just going to kick off our 8th webinar in our series of PUC Career Convos. And this week is PUC Career Convos, Trade Careers, Traditional and Non-Traditional Trades. And I am happy to know that I learned this year that there was a difference in the two, and glad to bring it to our students. Many are familiar and many still are learning. I'm the Director of School and College Counseling. I get to serve PUC schools from the home office, where I support the school and college counselors and the school leaders in making sure we have academic, career, and personal social services for our students so that you can develop to be whatever you choose to be, and we help you prepare to get there. And I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Amy Villasenor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Villasenor. I'm the PUC Alumni Program Coordinator. So here at PUC, we like to make sure our high school students transition successfully to their post-secondary pathways. And so I'm really excited that you all are here to help inform our students about what options they have available to them after they graduate.
Awesome. Thank you. And when it comes to virtual housekeeping, we were just talking about this before some of you may have logged on, but we've had all of us have been forced into becoming Zoom professionals. So I just want to let you know we have Ms. Villasenor. Amy is managing the chat box. Ask questions. This is for you. We have these experts online, and they are here to answer your questions and give you any kind of advice or let us know about what you want to know. I ask that you remain muted, because whenever we have people unmuted, it ends up getting a little bit crazy on the call. And then following this webinar, or at the end of this webinar, you'll get a survey link. We ask that you complete it so that we can get your feedback on how you feel, how we can get better, additional questions you might have. And then we will also email you at the end of this webinar. We will email you our post meeting follow-up information. It'll have notes, and our tremendous panel has shared resources that can help you continue your research on these different career options and apprenticeships and trade opportunities. So don't forget to fill out the survey. And with that being said, I want to welcome our expert panelist. I've got Ms. Van Trotter, apprenticeship recruiter for Western Electrical Contractors Association, and you guys call yourselves WECA? WECA, okay, great. And we've got Dr. Keith Clement, criminology professor, Fresno State University, cybersecurity. Thank you so much for being here. We've got Professor Gregory Morrison, respiratory therapist program director at LA Valley College. We've got, actually, he'll be joining us at 5:40, Mr. Richard Herman. He's president of 101 MFG, manufacturing, aerospace, defense, biomedical, tons of manufacturing options. He'll be joining us from his classroom at 5:40, so he will be coming. And then last but not least, we've got Mr. Robin Sheridan, and he is a retired apprenticeship coordinator for LA Mission College. And I got him by contacting their construction and maintenance careers department. So thank you all for being here. So appreciate you. And we can dive right in terms of why are we here today? I always like to remind our students, this is the reason why we have these PUC career combos. We have them for you so that you can expand your career knowledge. We want to make you really informed with regards to your career decisions, because this is not a decision that you decide senior year, second semester, or beginning of senior year. Ongoing information for students to make informed decisions. And as you'll learn, we're getting people with real world experience here who are in this career, not a counselor telling you this is what I've read online or this is I've connected, but hearing it from people who are professionals in their field. So thank you so much for being here, panelists, and thank you so much, students, for investing this 1 hour of your time to learn more. And like I mentioned earlier, I just want to say apprenticeships. I know if we have, we don't have a tremendous apprenticeship presence in our schools yet, but we're moving more in that direction as we learn that there's just such demand and amazing opportunity for our students. But I want to share with students, it's paid on the job learning. You go to class for a portion of the time, virtual or in person, and then you get mentorship from experts in the field that help you with hands-on learning. And then you earn credentials that can take you anywhere in the nation. They're recognized nationally. So it is a terrific pathway in a variety of fields that students need to know about and should consider. And something I learned about this year was about the difference between traditional and non-traditional apprenticeships. I had no idea of the two, but learned in terms of many people would think electrician, plumber, construction, things of that nature. But in addition to those traditional types of trades, allied health science, cybersecurity, education, advanced manufacturing, logistics, it's amazing. It pretty much goes into every single sector. You can find something, and they're all in in-demand fields. And from what I hear from the few people that I've had experience in the apprenticeship world, they're very competitive because people realize you get to be an apprenticeship and get paid to learn. I think their slogan is like, earn while you learn, I think. I see nodding. I believe I've seen it a couple places. But enough hearing from me. I think the person you want to hear from is our excellent experts. And I'd just like to learn a little bit more about y'all before we jump in. So our students always love hearing about what's your story, because they are in anywhere from 6th to 12th grade, and they're trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up and how people figure that out. So if you would share a couple minutes, and maybe I'll start with Ms. Trotter. Tell us about who you are and how you got to deciding what you wanted to be.
Absolutely. So I am the apprenticeship recruiter. So for the Western Electrical Contractors Association, I have a super fun job. I get to talk about people earning money while they're learning a trade, which is so fantastic. It's so great to be able to share with people that you can actually learn this trade while you're earning money. And I kind of got here in a roundabout way. I had other types of jobs in my past, but found that there just wasn't enough sharing of educational materials about opportunities. I worked as a retail manager. It's a great job, worked in that for a long time, but really liked the training and development portion of what I was able to do. So I was able to kind of transition to this job that I currently have, which I really can't express how fun it is to be able to share this information, but to meet people, to be able to connect with all the different associations and individuals, and to learn even more about apprenticeships. So the traditional versus non-traditional, the opportunities that are out there for students, for young people, for anybody who wants to really dive into a different career path. It's been super fun to do that. My background, I'm a Bulldog, so went to Fresno State. Just to let you know, graduated from Fresno State a few years ago, and had lots of different types of jobs. Most of my career was in retail, but really wanted to focus on the training and development portion, which is what I get to do now. I do lots of traveling and lots of educating, so super fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I'm just going to go down the list right now. If I can have Mr. Sherdorn, did I say that correctly? Oh, you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
We got you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And also, I just wanted to ask Ms. Trotter, did you know Jane Templin?
Have not had the opportunity yet. Sounds like a name I need to know.
Okay. Well, I just said Jane worked with you guys, and I've known her for 30 years. I thought maybe you had it. Anyway, enough of that. My name's Robin, and I was a apprenticeship coordinator for the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, Sprinkler Fitters Union in Los Angeles for, 15 years, I guess. I worked in the field. I was an apprentice for 5 years, I worked in the field for about 25 years. Then they brought me in the office and ran the apprenticeship program. And I got involved in all the different aspects of the apprenticeship program with the federal programs, the state programs, rewriting your standards, all the mechanical nuts and bolts of apprenticeship. But I'm very well versed in it, but I really think what I have to share, or what I'd like to talk to the students about, is that it's kind of we used to call it an unwritten or an unknown fact that there are wonderful careers out there in apprenticeship. People just don't know about, because unless they have family or friends involved, they weren't aware of it. Apprenticeship programs in California didn't really have to advertise. They always got enough recruits to fill positions every year, just threw an ad in the paper saying, we're taking applications. They didn't have to have campaigns. They didn't have to have programs saying, come to us, we're the best, anything like that. We used to open up for applications once every 2 years, and we would get up to 600 people applying for 60 jobs. And the reason was they knew these jobs were good jobs in, like we said, was discussed earlier, you get paid while you learn. You had to go to school. In our case, it was one night a week. A lot of other programs in the building trades are 2 nights a week. And you got paid to go. You didn't get paid to go to school, but you got paid to on the job site every day. And the thing is, at the end of 5 years or 4 years, depending on the program, you were making really good money with full benefits. And it was just really life-changing to see young men and women come in with no future, so to speak, or didn't know what future they had. And then all of a sudden they're transformed into good citizens you'd want living next door to you. They buy, they contributed to the society, they made good money, they bought things, they were part of our culture. And it was really inspiring to see people change their lives with a good job. So these are really good jobs out there. I was involved in the building trades, but I also got a little experience with other programs that weren't part of the building trades, like the Southern California Edison, the firefighters, other people that had apprenticeship programs. And I just am a firm believer in apprenticeship programs. You get, the top-notch training anywhere in the world, like some of the construction sites, like electrical, plumbing, pipe fitting. Their training programs are literally the best in the world. And it's really encouraging to see a young man or a woman get into a program like that and come out a professional in 4 or 5 years. And if I can answer any questions tonight about what I know, I'd be certainly happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wonderful. We've got Dr. Keith Clement, please.
Yes, of course. My name is Keith Clement, and I have one of the best jobs in the world, like Diane was mentioning earlier. The idea of a university professor that we get paid to write and we get paid to talk. So for those that like to write and they like to talk, I have to admit there's fewer better jobs than that, although, there's a lot of work and grading and all that. So outside of being a professor of criminology at California State University, Fresno, go Bulldogs, I also have the pleasure of serving as the California Cybersecurity Task Force Workforce Development and Education Subcommittee Chair. And I also have the honor of serving as the California Interagency Apprenticeship Council Advisory Council. And I chair the IT area generally. And of course, about 1 in 8 IT jobs is found in the area of cybersecurity, which of course is a excellent field, like Robin was talking about, that has, high wage, life-sustaining kinds of jobs that you could support a family on and not and not have to worry about making ends meet when you are making about $50 or $51 an hour starting in the field. And like many of the other panels and occupations as well, what we are finding is that while some people need a college degree to do well in cybersecurity, like for example, if you're thinking of going to work for the federal government, or government agencies tend to like 4-year degrees as well as specific experience. But for those that aren't interested in going on into the 4-year degree science, technology, engineering, and math heavy programs, there are other alternatives in the IT cyber world. Not everybody has to be an egghead and, a science master. I mean, there are plenty of other positions that are on the margins of the IT cyber world that you wouldn't have to be a coding wizard or a hardware expert or network. So I think that's one of the new focuses in apprenticeship these days, is there are plenty of skill-based, competency-based types of jobs that are out there, that the registered apprenticeship is an excellent model of workforce development. Not only do you earn as you learn, but you're not earning minimum wage at any stage in this process. Let's just be clear about that, right? I mean, so I think those are examples of that. And I also look forward to any questions that one may have. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I so appreciate the passion and energy y'all have. Great. Thank you. If we please have Professor Morrison.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Greg. I'm the professor. I'm the program director for respiratory therapy at LA Valley College, which is actually the school that I went to in what I like to call 19 polyester. So, and respiratory therapy, we're known on the news media right now as other healthcare professionals, right? They say nurses and other healthcare professionals, they're talking about respiratory therapists. So we're a little, our profession is a little underrepresented in the news media currently right now. So a lot of people haven't heard of respiratory therapy. So, and respiratory therapy, we do not have there aren't any mentoring programs that I'm aware of. However, until this year, because of COVID, coming out of December and into January, the hospitals were getting completely overloaded. And my friends who have been working in the hospitals, one of them told me something that unnerved me, is I can't unsee this flood that was going in. Kaiser Health Systems actually contacted respiratory therapy students, and a handful of my students actually got hired to work at the Kaiser clinic sites. And this was at a time when the hospitals weren't training students because they were afraid they wouldn't have enough PPE. So that's so who knows, maybe the mentoring thing will come back to respiratory therapy, but I'm not aware of any specific mentoring programs. It might be specific to each college, whether they're even doing job shadowing. So I'm the deal of the century, okay? 3 years with me and you're out of the house, okay? 3 years in a community college with community college rates, and you'll have a job, a profession that you can be proud of, and you can work anywhere in the country and in different places in the world. So so how did I become a respiratory therapist? Well, originally I wanted to be the next Marlon Perkins. So there's a name you can Google, right? And my grade friends here are already smiling, but yeah, I wanted to be that biologist, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, which we all saw with Disney. So I was going to be a biologist and go out there and get chased around by wild animals. Turns out as a biology major, you have to take a lot of chemistry. So I'm in my third chemistry class at Pierce College, grew up in the San Fernando Valley, qualitative analysis, and I realized this is as far as my brain is going to go. Everybody that's surviving is smarter than me. And I don't know about you, but you probably have some friends who already have their careers picked out. Two of my closest friends knew from 10th grade what they were going to be and what college they were going to go to. And I didn't even know what an SAT was. So they had a very strict plan, and I had no plan other than maybe taking some biology classes. And then as I maxed out in chemistry, I heard about a program called respiratory therapy over at Valley College. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse, I couldn't see myself doing bedpans, but the respiratory therapy was interesting. I like toys and stuff, so it's a very technical program. And I looked at the prereqs, and I was already qualified to enter the program. So it was like, okay, I'll go. I was pretty much like a C+ student at that time, which back then meant you were a C+. That's how smart you were. And I went to respiratory therapy. It turns out I was really good at it since I was going to actually use it, and graduated from the profession. My specialty is working with neonates, which is newborn babies. Okay, so respiratory therapists, we're like the shock troops in the hospital. We deal with the sickest people, whether they're newborn or whether they're a geriatric patient. And the respiratory therapists, what's really cool about us, other healthcare professions that are awesome are nursing, radiology. My wife, I'm an X-ray tech. The difference with us, though, is that, first of all, no bedpans, so that's a big plus, okay? So we're specialists, and we do a lot of therapies for patients. We run the life support machines. We do all the CPR. We give breathing treatments, but we also do diagnostic testing too. We do lab specimens and breathing tests and all kinds of things. Whereas if you're in radiology, it's all diagnostic testing. You're not going to be treating patients. And in nursing, it's almost always mostly patient care, right? So that's what's kind of cool about respiratory. So if you like science, then it's a good way to go. Mine is not. So I kind of stumbled into it, and turned out I was pretty good at it. So I stuck with it, and I was, my family business was a moving and storage company in the San Fernando Valley, and I didn't ever want to work for a company. I wanted to make sure that I had a profession that I could put in my pocket. So if the company said, we don't need you anymore, then I can go somewhere else. And because of respiratory therapy, I was able to move to the fabulous Ventura County. And I spent many years at the beach in Ventura when there was no employment except for respiratory therapy. So we're kind of underrepresented, very cool profession. It's not, and it's full of really interesting folks. My story is a good one for becoming a respiratory therapist, and it points out that not everybody has a plan. But my favorite story is my buddy who retired recently, is a Vietnam vet and a fireman, then he got injured, and he showed up in respiratory school in Simi Valley, and he was supposed to go to dental school. He was supposed to learn how to make dentures, but he walked into class not hungover, he was actually drunk. So he stumbled into the respiratory class, stayed there, and this teacher came over and goes, I don't have you on my list. And he decided to do respiratory therapy, and he turned out to be really, really good at it. So that's kind of our rogue group, but we roam all over. Most of our work is in hospitals. We do work in some rehab centers and in home care as well. Like I said, we do breathing treatments. We administer oxygen, which was the true story of COVID. So typically the respiratory therapist, when the patient comes in, the first person they're going to see is the respiratory therapist, and he's going to assess the patient for the physician to tell them whether or not we have to put them on life support or not. And his job is to keep them off that. Basically, the prerequisites are very similar to nursing. So you got about 1.5 years of prereqs, and then you're training in the hospital for about 1.5 years. So
awesome. Thank you for that information and your story. And I do think definitely underrepresented in all this, underrepresented in all of this COVID thing. It's just amazing the work that y'all have done. Thank you. When it comes to, you guys have touched upon this somewhat, but if you just share, like, maybe what are the pros and cons of your industry? What do you think in terms of students that might be considering cybersecurity, electrician, construction maintenance, any of them, respiratory therapy? What do you think is the thing that?
So for respiratory therapy, a lot of students are concerned whether they can handle being around sick people, and maybe they've had experience with their own family inside the hospital setting. And it's a very different experience when you're there to help and you're focusing and you're problem solving. And I find very few students wash out because of that. Once you're in there and you're involved and you're trying to help somebody, and you're trying to do your job, it's much different than if you're standing there just watching one of your family members having trouble. So a lot of students worry about, I don't think I could go and be around all that, blood and mucus and all that stuff. And it really becomes a much of a null factor. The biggest stressor in our profession has been dealt with this year, we don't have enough resources. And that's what the country got to learn, is that it's possible. So it's a 24/7 job. And there's a lot of responsibility on the therapist. So that's the biggest thing, is there is, like the Spider-Man movie, with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. So that's kind of the tough part of it. But when you're there working, and there's really no better group of people than working with healthcare people, it makes it an excellent profession. But that's kind of the stressor, is that often, and that's what happened this time, is we didn't have enough people. You know, people are taking triple workloads and working 7 12-hour shifts a week. But that's the thing, is there's a lot of responsibility into it and a lot of demand, but also a lot of demand and a lot of reward.
Thank you. How about Robin?
Yeah, I made some notes here. I was listening to that. Some of the pros and cons I wrote here are, the topic is, why should students consider a career in your industry? And I developed some pros and cons just right here. And some of the cons are that it's difficult at first. You don't know what you're entering. Most people are entering a whole new arena where they don't know anything. Nothing makes sense to them. They're lost. I'm fortunate enough to say this, because I went through it all. I was 1974, I was an apprentice, and for 2 years I was lost. And then all of a sudden the light came on. I realized what I was doing. I was a pipe fitter, and I realized that, you put together pipes, one pipe after the other, and you go on. Anyway, it's not glamorous work, but the cons are, it's very hard work. You're going to be lifting heavy things, no matter if you're an electrician. I'm talking strictly to the people witnessing this show right now, as from a construction point of view. You're going to be lifting things, moving things. You're going to be doing the stuff that doesn't have any skill involved. It's going to be labor, but that's how you learn. You do that for a while, and pretty soon the new kid will come along, a man or a woman, and they're going to give them the low pay, the lower skill job. And you by then have moved up to a better skill job. And this grows and grows and grows. That's part of apprenticeship. You start at the bottom and work your way up. Most apprenticeship programs, at least with the, in fact, they all do. I'll say they all do. They have school requirements. You got to go to school 1 night a week, 2 nights a week, every Saturday, every other. Some of them shut down for a week. You're pulled off the job site for a week, and you go once a week, Monday through Friday, to your training center for 40 hours a week. They're all different. And that's one thing I wanted to inject here, is that every union apprenticeship program with the building trades is different. There's not two that are completely alike. And one of the reasons for that is that, some of these programs go back 100, 150 years, and it works for them. So that's what they do. They don't need new people coming in telling them, oh, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. They know what works for them, so they can do it. So if you want to join one of their programs, you got to learn how they do it and follow the rules. And a lot of the rules are go to school. You got to go to what they call supplemental instructional training. You have to learn these things, because you probably can't learn them on the job site. A typical journeyman is not on a construction site, is not going to take you aside and teach you some of the math tricks. He or she doesn't have time for that. So you go to school learning that stuff. And that's part of your job. You're not going to get paid for it. But the thing is, at the end, you will be rewarded. You're going to have to follow school requirements. They're very strict, very strict. You miss 2 nights, sometimes you got to repeat the semester. And in that time, if you miss another night, they'll probably kick you out. And people just aren't used to that. People aren't used to saying, you got to leave. We don't want you anymore. But it happens in construction trades. They've got 400 people waiting to take your job. So if you don't perform, they don't need you. They've got 399 people behind you do that. So you got to follow the rules. And no matter what you tell students coming in, you got to follow the rules. Most of them listen, but there's always a few that don't, thinking, oh, that doesn't apply to me. But anyway, the rules are very strict and you have to take them serious. Those are the cons. Some of the pros I have are most times it's steady work. You're working 40 hours a week. You're getting paid while you work. You get a raise every 6 months. Most programs are 4 or 5 years. There's a couple 3-year programs out there, but most of them are 4 or 5 years. So every 6 months you're getting a raise. Most raises are at least $1 to $2 an hour. You're getting better pay than most entry-level jobs. Most apprenticeship programs and building trades now coming in, they start at $19, $20 an hour. They have great benefits. Most of them, almost all of them have medical, dental, vision care. And the thing is, almost all of them nowadays have 2 pension plans. You've got your regular, defined pension plan, and then you got an extra 401k type plan, 401a, 401k, they vary. So you've got 2 pension plans working for you. It's just, most jobs, it's unheard of to have that. They have early retirement. Most construction jobs, you can retire at 55, some even at 50. But they know that it's hard work, and once you're over 55, the work's very difficult. So they've allowed for you to draw your pension at 55. Most industries, you got to wait till you're 65. The other thing is it's physically demanding. And you could look at that as 2 ways. I used to look at it as, I kept me in shape. I'm not in shape anymore, but back when I was 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, I was in good shape because you worked hard every day. You could eat what you want, work hard. It was physically rewarding. You slept good at night. That to me was one of the pros. I may be on the other side of the fence with some other people that may say that's a con, but anyway, I thought it was a pro. So speaking only for the building trades apprenticeship programs, it's hard work, it's good pay, it's not a lot of fun. At the end of the career, you've got quite a good career. You got great pension plans. You retire very comfortable. The only other thing I don't think they ever talk about in any of these apprenticeship programs, whether it be the construction or the private industry ones, is that normally you go to school with the same group of 20, 30 students for year after year, and you become best friends. And that's something that's never, ever talked about. And what I experienced is that I have some of my best friends today are people I went to school with. I heard Keith talking about he lives in Camarillo. One of my oldest friends lives in Camarillo that we started together on the first day, and we're still friends today. There's a camaraderie that you get with an apprenticeship program that's never, ever discussed. That you go to, usually most cases, you go to the same school, the same night a week, same classmates. And you watch each other get married, divorce, have kids, go through all kinds of different life challenges, and you become very close. Like I said, my best friends today are people I went through apprenticeship program with, and that really isn't part of why you should become join an apprenticeship program, but it is part of it. It is something that I never thought would happen when I joined one. And I'm very grateful to be able to say that I kind of fell into an apprenticeship program, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Thank you.
Changed
Thank
my
you so
life.
much for sharing. Yeah, no, I think the relationships are key in what life's all about, on top of all the other benefits. And items you mentioned. One thing I want to take note of, if we could go to Ms. Trotter, Diane, but I have someone who will be calling in shortly from their classroom. So when he calls in, if it would be okay, just to take a pause for a minute and let him talk, and that he wanted to be a part of this and he had to teach tonight. So he asked if he could just call in for that short period. So I thank you for all in advance for your flexibility and shifting.
Absolutely, no problem with me.
Thank you.
So both Robin and the professor have said some great things. There's some things I don't even need to say now because they've already said it about apprenticeship. But specifically, I can speak about the electrical industry a little bit. We all, no matter how we get our power, we're going to need to connect it to ourselves so that we can use it in our lives. And as COVID kind of showed us, we really just kind of powered through, no pun intended. So we powered through and just kept working in the field because keeping your hospitals upgraded, your schools, any type of facilities that use electricity we had to continue to work. So there wasn't really a work stoppage for people that were in the electrical trade. I think there was a pause of like, what's going to happen next, but it really picked right back up. We didn't have very many apprentices laid off from their jobs, which was a benefit. So being in the electrical trade, it's a very steady career, as are a lot of the construction careers that are out there, and the other apprenticeship opportunities really provide that for you. The cons, I was trying to think of the cons. The cons would be, and I think of it as a pro also, there is a lot of math in electricity. There is a lot of science in electricity. So that could be a con for someone who maybe doesn't like that as their pathway, but it's also a pro because it really keeps you learning. So you do have to come to school. You do have to continue your education so that you can keep going and learning about what's new. But everything is changing. I mean, solar is definitely the wave of the future. There is going to be turbine and more power coming from different sources, but we're going to continue to use it in our lives every day, in our businesses every day, no matter what we're doing. So the work is pretty steady. You are very well compensated for what you do. It is hard work. So there is no doubt about it. Like Robin said, it is not at times, there is lots of using a shovel, and there is hard work. I will say one quick story. We had an apprentice who shared this with me not very long ago. And she was saying that one of the best things for her was she did her apprenticeship. She's with the same company. She's been with this company now for 10 years. She's moving on to other levels at the company. So project management, and trying to dive in and continue to learn herself so she can do other things. And she was with her daughter the other day on a field trip, and they went through a building that she actually helped to power. And for her, just seeing that result of the lights that were working and the way that the building looked at the end of their tour was just super gratifying for her. So that actual seeing something come to fruition, and it's always going to be there now, is super rewarding. And I thought that was a great story to share. So if you're someone who likes to kind of see that end result, it's definitely a place that you can do that. So that's kind of just a nutshell, pros and cons.
Thank you so much. I would love to, Professor Clement, if you would wait 1 minute, please, and if I could pause with you, since we have, I believe, Mr. Herman on the call. I think you're muted. Coming in. Let's see. He might need another minute calling from the classroom, but when you are ready, if you would chime on in, and we'd love to be able to share with you and have you have the opportunity. He's in front of kids in a class and all, so I'll just wait another minute there. But Professor Clement, would you like to take the floor and start with your pros and cons in terms of cybersecurity? Or
Sure, I have really 3 pros and I have 3 cons. The first pro, of course, is wide job availability in this area. International 3 million jobs needed right now. Across the country, 508,000 available jobs right now today you could be applying for if you were in that position. And California has about 70,000 of these positions. So there are tremendous numbers of positions. This is a high demand area, and it's not all about money, but I'll tell you this, a starting entry-level cyber analyst makes $50 to $52 an hour starting. And for those that don't like the math, that's just over $100,000 a year. And heck, even Google pays their interns $95,000 a year. So that's the plus side of it. The downside, there's a wide misperception that you have to be an Albert Einstein or a Bill Gates or a Tim Cook and be a tech or coding genius to be able to figure out and develop a career in IT and cybersecurity. A second pro, of course, is many really do enjoy the ability to work remotely and online from home. And I am certainly one of those people. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Con, this is a security-based field. And as it turns out, hackers and cyber thieves take neither holidays or weekends off. So this is absolutely a dynamic 24/7, 365-day operation, shall we say, and stressful, incidentally, for those that wanted to know. A third pro, lots of mobility up the career chain. That is, you could start off as a technician. You could start off installing printers at your local dentist's office. You could progress through the technician, analyst, engineering phases and get all the way up to what they call the C-suite, the executive suite, and be either a chief information security officer, CISO, a chief information officer, a CIO, or a chief technology officer, CTO. And I assure you that there are plenty of positions in all three of those areas, and they are soundly compensated. And lastly, the final con is there are some obstacles and limitations in terms of finding available education, workforce development, and apprenticeship opportunities across the state, across the nation. But that's a limitation that we're working to resolve right now.
Awesome, thank you. I know we had a gentleman talk about cybersecurity the other day, and I never thought of myself as an IT lover in that I would love it, and just the constantly finding bad guys and trying to always problem solve, and the collaboration it takes with corporations and individuals and companies. It was just really fascinating to hear how, you know, someone like myself who didn't even have email back when I was in college, or
you can have a solid career in this area, right? Yeah. And say, for example, if you're in HR and management, those are both widely needed areas for IT and cybersecurity. Yeah. That folks don't think of, that don't have a traditional background. I see Mr. Herman's here.
Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Herman.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome.
Okay. Finally hit the right button, I guess. So hello, everyone. Why don't we start with a very, very brief introduction. My name is Dick Herman. I run a statewide apprenticeship program. You'll get the information, but the website is Cal Machinist. Machinist is spelled with two I's, calmachinist.com. Briefly about the program, it is a traditional or a registered apprenticeship program. What that means is that you have to be employed. Your employer pays for your schooling, and your employer employs you full-time. You typically start out around $16 an hour. And depending on which career track and which skill set you pursue, you end up around $30 an hour, or a maintenance technician sometimes ends up around $36 to $40 an hour. And from there, if you've got the CAD and the programming gene and you're a good machinist, the sky's the limit. I know quite frankly, across the state, I know many who are working 4 10s a week and earning $100,000 or more. That's not everyone, and I don't want to shine you on, but it's a great career option. And let me stop there. Perhaps there might be questions about what a machinist or a tool and die maker is. I know some of you are probably thinking it's the olden days and it's dark and dirty and dangerous, and that's it's not. Today, it's very, very high tech. It's quite a bit automated. You have to be comfortable with a little bit of math, and you have to be comfortable around computers. And with that, are there questions, or would you like me to hand the phone to a couple young apprentices who maybe can tell you more about their experience? What would be the best use of our time together?
I think it'd be great if you maybe shared it with a couple of your apprentices, if they could talk about how, like, why they went into this field and what they like about it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let me, it's going to be a little noisy. I'm going to walk into the shop, but bear with me, okay? Hold on just a minute.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for your flexibility. When we get these professionals that say that they'll make time after a busy day to be a part of it, it's hard for me to say no. The insight they provide is invaluable.
Yeah, come on. Somebody younger than me, okay? And they don't- That's right. So you've got an audience talking to the phone.
Running a phone call right now.
Yeah.
Saying,
Welcome.
say you and what you're doing, and how you got into it, what you want to do. Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Kevin. I kind of got into engineering after working for 4 or 5 years in a 2D corrugated packaging design lab. It kind of got me interested in doing 3D drafting, and I had prior experience operating a machine. So I thought it wasn't all too great of a career change. Kind of found a program at DVC, got myself enrolled, and just kind of been steamrolling through courses since.
What do you like about it, about your career?
I guess what I like about machining the most is just, producing tangible items, the feeling of, accomplishment when you spend a decent amount of time trying to produce something and you actually make what the drawing dictates it should be. Like, getting pretty precise 2 drawings is a pretty heavy accomplishment in my mind. Honestly, the only thing I don't really like is how tedious it is. I mean, it is incredibly repetitive, but you get better through repetition.
Yes. And what kind of product do you make?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions, or?
What kind of products do you make?
I used to make just boxes, corrugated plastic style packaging, but currently I'm just a student, so I'm not really producing anything.
Okay. All right. In the program, do you learn about a specific field, or is it kind of applicable across many industries?
For the most part, it's just, metal machining. Here.
So this is Dick again. Let me chime in. I represent about 400 machine shops across the state. I live in a small town called Petaluma, California, in Northern California. 10 miles south of me is a company, I can't say their name, I'm not allowed to, but a company of 25 people. They put 400 parts on every SpaceX rocket that ever goes up, okay? Another company that is on the East Bay in Northern California builds parts for Tesla automobiles. Some of you may be familiar, several years ago, there was a delay. Tesla was having problems with its battery plant, and this shop actually literally bailed them out, solved an engineering problem for them, and made the parts, actually redesigned a Tesla part so that Tesla could get its battery plant online. So there's aerospace, there's medical. A lot of today's devices, not just the surgical devices, but the measurement and inspection devices are produced. If you've got a cell phone in your pocket, that cell phone won't work without the cell towers and the communications. And so companies like Keysight, which used to be called Agilent, that make the test and measurement equipment. There are literally hundreds of companies in just about any industry you can think of. And they all depend on, even the 3D printers, they depend on a machinist and an engineer somewhere to design the part, create the print, and create the tooling for it. So let me stop there. Are there additional questions?
I think, I don't know if you have any that are coming in, Amy. I think the only questions that will be really popular with students is if they're interested in this field, where do I go to find more? And you've shared some information with me that if you complete the post feedback survey, I will be sending all of the resources that Mr. Herman and Ms. Trotter and everyone, all of the panelists have shared resources. I'll be sending them your way. So just make sure you fill out that survey.
One thing I would also emphasize. I remember when I was just starting out, and don't laugh, but I thought, and nothing wrong with it, but I thought I wanted to be a banker. And I'm just not a banker. Okay, I'm an engineer. I like design, and I had to find that out. And the only way that I know to find out something like that is to try it. So I would encourage those of you who are listening, try different things out. Okay, sometimes something will hit you. And what's nice about machining and engineering, you don't have to take a lot of courses. You can take one course. Take an elective and see if you like it. If you like it, great. If not, no, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Thank you. That's great advice. I think many students struggle with, how do I pick something I'm going to be for the rest of my life? And they think that they can evolve into many things, or they have to know right then. And it really is a journey. It is a journey. But thank you so much, Mr. Herman. And thank you to the student that participated. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure, and I wish you all great success. The contact at Cal Machinist. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to help you. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All righty. Goodbye.
Bye. I think in terms of, we've hit a lot of this information. We've got our last 4 minutes of the webinar. I'd like to open it up to students, see if anything's coming in, Amy, and just also our panelists. Is there something I didn't ask you that you think like, gosh, she really missed the mark on making sure kids know X about these opportunities?
So before we get too far, for the respiratory therapy program, we do have an online class, Respiratory Therapy 1, which high school seniors can enroll in. It's online. You'll be taking classes, and that class is designed for early entrance students to teach them not only about the profession, but also about the program. And it's offered every fall and spring. So you could enroll into that, and that'd be a great way to learn about respiratory therapy.
Beautiful. And I saw that you mentioned that when you filled out the survey. Thank you. And PUC students, if you are at any of our PUC high schools, you may take this class for free through our dual enrollment programs. And I believe, Professor, this is a class offered in spring or fall, and it's an online course. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Excellent. So that's a great opportunity to get a taste of it, learn some more. And again, it's for free. And it lets you really pick a nice try at something before you have to commit your when you go to college or post-secondary path. So thank you for sharing that.
Nicole?
Yes.
Can I share something really quick I wanted to talk about earlier? Is that there's a program out there, and it's not just for building trades. Most of them are, and it's set up by the Building Trades Coordinators Association. Well, it's called California Apprenticeship Coordinators Association. It's a website called calapprenticeship.org, just like it's spelled. And it lists every apprenticeship program that's approved by the state of California in California. And you could go on there and type in your area, whether you live in Southern California, Northern California, and it'll list all the programs, and it'll list what you need to enroll, what you need to know, what you need to have. You know, some programs want a year of algebra, others don't. It's all spelled out for you when they take applications, what to bring with your application, driver's license, social security, all that stuff. It's all spelled out, but I gotta qualify it. It's maintained by the California Apprenticeship Coordinators Association, and not everybody's as diligent as they should be. And there's going to be 2 or 3 of the sites that are outdated. But still, if any of the people watching this webinar go to calapprenticeship.org, they can find the programs, and they'll see programs they didn't know even existed. I'm sure most of them would. I go through it and I'm amazed too that, wow, there's an apprenticeship program. I didn't know it existed. But there's a couple that are outdated, but you still have the information. If it is outdated, you've got who to go to and you can Google it and it'll bring you to the right site and bring you the updated information. But it's a great resource. It's free. And it doesn't only cover building trades. By golly, they got sausage makers, they got bakery chefs, it's incredible. calapprenticeship.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll include that in the email. Once you finish the survey, I'll send you the direct link, students.
Yeah, great site.
Wonderful.
So I think we have a shy audience today, or maybe they're just, completely, at a loss of words with all the amazing information. But I know something that's really important for our students to hear and learn is how they can better self-advocate. So it sounds like maybe there are some, programs and stuff that may require them to pick up the phone, make phone calls, send some emails. So maybe Diane or someone who manages one of these programs, what are some things that are important for students who are asking questions and are applying to these programs? What's important for them to know when they're representing themselves?
Well, in terms of healthcare, that's easy. You need to, what'll get you the job at the end of the day in a competitive market is not your technical knowledge or your technical skill for the most part. That'll get you in the interview. What wins the interview are your communication skills. And I tell students, you have to sound like me. We have to be able to teach 5-year-olds and be able to converse with research physicians. So anyone know what the 5th leading cause of death in the country is? Medical mistake. Medical mistakes, not people who were sick, but mistakes that we made by the hundreds of thousands. And the single leading cause is communication error, okay? So that's critical in healthcare. You're working with the best people that I've ever met. It's a brotherhood and a sisterhood, but we all communicate effectively. And I still have friendships from school as well, and my other family as well, but that's really the key. So throw a speech class into your curriculum. Some programs will require it, some will not. But at the end of the day, that is the single most important skill that you're going to need to win a job in any kind of market that's competitive.
Thank you. Great question, Amy.
Very good.
Any other advice?
In the area of cyber and IT, I think that the key to success is tenaciousness and determination. That is that on the one hand, there are a lot of positions that are available, but they tend to really be focusing on current cutting demand, current skills. So folks that don't have the skills would definitely have a hard time finding the job. However, through determination and tenacity, and I think Greg, Professor Morrison already kind of got into this point as well, that it is through the education and training programs that we go through that properly prepare us for the paths of employment that we seek. And communication skills, whether written or oral communication skills, are going to get you very far in this world for sure.
My only thing is you're going to get out of it whatever you put into it, no matter what you're doing. So whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it. If you decide you want to be a machinist, but you're just kind of going through the motions, you might not be the best at it. But if you really, whatever you decide to do, you put your whole heart into it, you're going to be successful at it. And you're going to get a lot more from that path and all the different pathways that come from that.
That's
Perfect.
great.
Thank you.
Well said, Diane.
Well, it is 6:01, and I thank everyone for your time. Panelists, you had a long day of work and life and family and all that stuff and still made time for PUC school students. I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for your giving your insight, your expertise to our students. Students, thank you for investing an hour of your time to learn more about these amazing opportunities. Fill out that survey Ms. Amy Villasenor put into the chat. You complete that survey, and I'll be able to connect you with all the resources noted, as well as additional resources that they shared before the webinar. So you'll get a lot of information to further your research and to connect. So thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful, great night, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, get vaccinated.
Thank you. Awesome.
This was
Any
awesome.
students, you have any more questions that stuck around? Or parents? I know we've had even some parents say that they wanted to learn more. Professor Clement, I'm so excited about your program, and just think of like the cybersecurity options and all that you do in your program. Like, this is just one sliver, correct?
Well, that's right. I think that what we really are seeking to do is to get middle school and high school kids connected in some of these meaningful ways early, so that they build a culture of cybersecurity. I mean, not just in their own lives, but, you know, in their professional goals as well. And I think that these are examples of very high demand careers, because we all, you know, we see YouTube and we see the news, and you would have to live in the middle of nowhere to not understand the challenges that are facing our society in a lot of ways, and the various careers, essential careers that exist to meet those needs. And all we have to do is communicate how these middle school and high school students can get themselves into the pathway that they're looking for as early on as possible. And it's also okay to be our age, my age, and still not know what you want to do with, you know, when you grow up. I have to admit that the earlier you come to that decision, the more active and earlier you come to that decision, focusing on careers that really meet the education and experience interests of the individual, that's when you're really going to be successful. And let's be honest, if you really like what you do, if you really, you know, if you really enjoy your job, it is hardly work anymore, right? I mean, that's what happens when you make that proper connection, as opposed to, yeah, it's true, there are people out there that hate their jobs because they're doing something they don't like. And so that, you know, you need to figure this out, and it is done through trial and experiment, right? Don't they say that experience is found on the basis of bad decisions, right? I mean, that, you know, so that's right.
Yeah, no, I thank you. And I think, like, just evolving, you know, Professor Morrison, you shared your story of how you came into it. And Professor Clement, I mean, my age, we weren't even on the internet or used email when I was younger. I mean, that was after I was graduated college, not even way after high school, but after I graduated college. And so having to constantly evolve and stay current with what you need to know with the technology, with just how things are done and how we're changing.
I think what a lot of students don't understand at first is that you want to, because this world is so harsh and the learning curve is so steep, and these kids, to go from living at home to being independent is a quantum leap. And the best path and the most direct path is to get some kind of profession in your back pocket. Then that gives you the freedom to do what you want, because you know you can go somewhere else and work, and maybe you want to go into a different field of endeavor. I would have never got to Ventura County if I wasn't a respiratory therapist, and even though I tried to leave it for a while, like the mafia, I got drugged back in, and now I always wanted to be a teacher, though, so it was my path to becoming a teacher that I wasn't even considering. So getting that first security of having a profession that you can do doesn't lock you into a bad job. It just locks you into a profession, and now you have options. Many respiratory therapists have become physicians and physician assistants and moved on there as well. So that's really, to me, the big benefit of these career pathways is now all of a sudden you've got what a lot of people sorely found out this year, because I could still go. As a matter of fact, they tried to drag me back to work. The hospitals contacted me and tried to drag my bad knees and my bad eyes back into the hospital setting. And I said, no, take my students. They're much better, at this than I am. But that was always one of the big selling points for these kind of programs.
I think this is great. Like, because we talk to our alumni all the time, or even with personal experience that, sometimes college can feel like the natural next step because everyone's talking about it. But most people I know, they graduate with their 4-year degree in whatever major it was, and then they're confronted with this life decision.
The odds are again. The odds are really against actually continuing that way. Whatever you started out in college, it's a very low percentage of people who actually complete it. So.
Yeah,
and my friends had done that, and they went. One of them did go on to. They both went on to do with it, but they said, "Well, we always admired you because you changed your mind in the middle of everything, and then found this career where we felt like we were locked in." And I go, "Well, I felt I wasn't as smart as you guys to become a lawyer or whatever." So, but that right now of all times, the folks that have been able to persevere this year. There's one common feature there, with the exception of the essential workers, is that they had a career that was in demand and they could mobilize it.
Yeah. And
okay, guys, it was a pleasure meeting you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate you.
Take care. Y'all have a great evening now.
You too.
We're still recording. Want me to go ahead and stop that?
Yeah, absolutely.